we've got some handout kinds of things for you if you're curious about all the letters, LGBTQ, QIA+, that's on one side, and then what's up with pronouns, because there's lots of talk about pronouns going on now, so that's on the other side. Please grab one, they're out in this room. We also have a glossary of all sorts of terms and information about sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. So if you want to learn some new things, check that out. We have also, our Reconciling in Christ team has had some events. Last week, Pastor Emmy Kegler was here. And so if you weren't here for worship, but would like to hear part of her story, please check that out. She was here sharing a different lens. She did a great job. Okay, sorry. The other thing I wanted to say is that we've been sharing some videos, those clunky question videos, so we did that for a while, and now we're on to some storytelling from the Reconciling in Christ team, because part of us learning where our blind spots are and where we might be unaware of how we're pushing people away is learning to look at our own stories. And so today it's my turn to tell part of my story. And so I'm grateful to be part of the Reconciling in Christ core team here, because it opens me up and it pushes me out in a way that, as you'll hear, is good for me and for my kids. So coming out as an ally with queer folks has been a challenge for me, because in my formative years, really, as I grew up, I learned intolerance and suspicion of sexuality and gender that were other than cisgender heterosexuality, right? So if you weren't straight and matched your body, I learned that that there was something to be feared in that. And so I just want to also note, before I go on, that I use the term queer as an all-encompassing term of affirmation rather than derogatory slang. So queer can be a difficult word in the world, depends on when you grew up and where you grew up and how that word was used, but I use it in a positive, affirming kind of way. So as I was growing up, I remember hearing rumors about people in my hometown, which is a small town, about people being transgender or gay or lesbian, and I didn't have any examples or understanding, really, or being curious in a respectful kind of way. It was sort of like gawking. And so whether it was through intentional or unintentional teaching, I learned intolerance and disrespect. And I didn't know people's stories. I didn't know how to learn their stories. And I really cringe, as I recall comments that I made in my college years, because I didn't know their stories. But as I learned others' stories and got to know people who were open about their identities, I was challenged, and really my heart was changed. And so I couldn't stay in that place of intolerance or ignorance, because now I knew and loved people who were gay or lesbian or transgender or had some other identity. And there was choice then for me. That choice was in the question of coming out as an ally. Certainly, through those experiences and knowing people, I adopted a more expansive view and understanding of God's creativity and joy. But the question really was, would I just quietly support these people who bring joy and life to the world, or would I do so publicly and openly, and would I come out in my allyship? And so for a good long time, I was quiet. So much so that my children had to ask me about my views of queer folks. How do you feel about people in the LGBTQIA community, Mom? This is what my 13-year-old's question was to me. Not anymore. No. So they asked me that as they weighed the risks of entrusting me with their current understanding of themselves. My 16-year-old at the time was unsure as they texted me details of their identity. My quiet support was not enough for either of them to know and experience my love and support for our queer siblings. Sorry. So I have learned and needed to become more vocal and public in my support for queer people. And I continue then to learn about the many, this booklet, right? The many gender and sexual identities and expressions in the world, and the amazing ways that people are created. And I continue to discover my ignorance and intolerances and my fears. And I make mistakes, and I don't understand. And so I keep listening. And I'm learning to keep trusting that the person who is sharing about themselves, that they're earnestly trying to live fully into who they are as they understand themselves. So my life is better because I have come out as an ally of queer folks, and I give thanks to our good God for those folks, for their bravery and their love in my life. And I encourage you to keep learning too. Thanks.